Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, and I'm here today with Stephen Jessup. And today we are going to discuss independent medical exams and things that you should expect when your disability insurance company asks you to go to one. Now, the important thing for you to understand is that these exams should really be called compulsory medical exams, also known as CMEs, because you are required to show up at this exam or the disability insurance company will deny your benefits. And there's been tons of cases throughout the country where a claimant didn't want to go to the examination and the court said, if you don't go to that exam, we are going to deny your benefits. So first thing is you have to go to these exams, no questions asked. Now, that being said, you're still entitled to know a lot of things before you get there. For example, what type of doctor is going to examine you, first off the bat. Number two, you're entitled to know what's the protocol that's going to be expected of you when you get there, meaning what types of tests are you going to have to go through and what's the doctor actually going to do to you. The other thing you should know before you get to the exam is whether or not this doctor is going to require you to do any type of invasive testing, such as a blood test, an EMG test, a nerve conduction study test, possibly even an X-ray or an MRI. And if the disability carrier is going to request that you do those types of things, there's a possibility that you may not have to undergo those things even though you're required to show up at the exam. So let's talk a little bit about, and Steve, let's talk a little bit today about, how should a disability claimant act when they get to this exam?
I think most importantly is to not over-exaggerate the symptoms. Don't do things you normally wouldn't. For instance, if you don't walk with a cane regularly, don't show up to an IME with a cane. If you have a back problem, a leg problem, what the case may be, there's a good chance that the insurance company will probably have you on video surveillance leading up to the IME, at the time of the IME, or shortly thereafter. So it's a matter of being truthful, just being honest in what the symptoms and the condition is. It's not trying to, what we say, prove your claim too much to your own detriment, and that the doctor feels that you're faking or you're embellishing your symptoms.
Okay, so the first thing you would say is don't exaggerate your symptoms and be honest.
Be honest.
Okay, the second thing that I would say is this doctor is supposed to be independent, and the reality is that some of them actually are independent, while as there's plenty of others that are basically in the pocket of the insurance company or the outside company that's been hired. And we've had many other videos where we've discussed the biases of these disability insurance companies that hire the same IME doctors repetitively. That being said, you need to, no matter what you do, treat the IME doctor with respect and just be professional, because this particular doctor is really not the enemy. And if you come across as being someone who's treating him like he's the enemy, then that doctor is going to even look to possibly not be fair to you, even more so than he may have already been predisposed to be. So treat someone with respect, and I think that you're going to find that the doctor will find you candid and not exaggerating your symptoms. The other issue that you should be aware of is that, something you touched on a minute, is that the disability insurance company is probably videotaping you either a couple days, a couple weeks before the exam, the same day of the exam. I've had clients who are videotaped walking in, the person sitting outside with the video camera watches them walking out, and then follows them for 2 or 3 days after to see if everything they're telling the independent medical exam doctor is the same as their performance before, during, and after. All right. Another thing that we always recommend for our clients who go for these independent medical exams is to consider videotaping the examination, bringing a tape recorder, or bringing an independent witness with you who can verify every single thing that's done to you at this exam, as well as everything that you're telling the particular doctor. I can't tell you how many cases we've been called on where someone didn't have a videographer or someone else there independent, and the potential client says to us, I didn't tell the doctor that, or he didn't do this particular test to me, so I don't know how he made that finding. The other thing that we often find is that by having a video there or an independent person, it keeps the doctor professional. It makes the doctor do the examination that he's supposed to do. It also makes him document every single thing that actually really took place. And we also, whenever there's a videographer there or an independent person, we don't get these situations where, oh, that doctor, he came in and saw me for 2 minutes and then he walked out, which we happen to see that happen a lot. Steve, another thing that I find is whenever our clients go for these independent medical exams, they're often asked to fill out paperwork. What do you usually advise your clients about the paperwork?
I recommend not to fill out any paperwork from the doctor for the independent medical evaluation. By this point, that doctor should have the complete narrative of your medical records that were submitted to the insurance company. He should already have reviewed those and had a command of those. You may know a lot about your condition, your history, what's going on, but the best source, medically speaking, are those records, so the doctor should rely upon those records. Any forms you may fill out, you can guarantee that the insurance company will look for any type of discrepancy. You've all seen the forms where you have to check a box. If you neglect to check a box, they might use that against you. So always advise, don't fill out any forms. There's really no need. The doctor should have already been well aware of what your medical conditions, the history, and things like that prior to even coming into the IME.
Yeah, the other thing I always remind the insurance companies of, and I remind our clients, is that this examination is not a deposition, and it's not a field interview. It's not a sworn statement of you to find out, everything that the disability carrier's already asked of you. It's one thing for the doctor to say, how do you feel today, and what are your complaints, and what kinds of things can you not do, or what can you do, but it's not a deposition, and really, you should talk as little as possible. It's supposed to be a physical examination of your body, so that the doctor can see that you're a real person, that you really have problems, as opposed to the insurance company always looking at you on paper. Often a lot of disability carriers now aren't even doing these independent medical exams. They're doing just these peer reviews where they'll hire an outside doctor to review the documents, and then the insurance company makes a determination whether or not you're disabled just based on a peer review. So here, at least, the insurance company is giving you the opportunity to be examined by a doctor and see some of the things that are physically wrong with you. Now that takes me to another topic. How should you behave as a claimant when you're there in the office? A lot of claimants feel like they have to go in there and complain about every single thing. So if the doctor touches the elbow, they feel like they have to exaggerate and say, oh, that hurts. Or if the doctor touches the shoulder, touches the head, where they may not normally think it hurts, they may feel they have to say, oh, that hurts. Because if they don't, then the disability company is going to think there's nothing wrong with them. Well, I can tell you that these doctors, when they examine you, are trained to do what's called non-physiologic tests. And these types of tests are when they specifically will touch you in parts of your body that should not hurt from the way in which the doctor's touching you. And if you were to give a response to say, oh no, that bothers me, or that's uncomfortable, or that hurts, then the doctor's going to try to say, look, I think you're someone who's exaggerating, I think you're someone who's faking, because there's no way from what I did to you that should have hurt. And it can be one little thing that you do during this IME exam that questions your credibility. Because the reality is that with most of your disabling conditions, you have pain complaints, and pain is not visible no matter what. Certainly if you have a broken arm and you walk in with a cast, of course you're going to see that that's something you'd be in pain. But you can't see pain. There's no tools, instruments, or any type of diagnostic tool to measure pain. So you have to be super honest, and you definitely don't have to exaggerate your symptoms at all. The last thing that I would mention about this IME report is that the IME doctor is going to always generate a report. I mean, that's what the insurance company is paying them to do. And even if the case is in litigation, they have to generate a report. But before you go, you should get the insurance company to agree that either one, they'll give you a copy of the report, or two, they'll agree to give your doctors a copy of the report so that before a claim decision is made, your doctor will have the opportunity to respond to the report. And also, it would be important for you to get the report. I mean, there's been situations where a doctor has maybe found something that you weren't aware of and that maybe your treating doctors can take care of. Because these IME doctors, the first thing they'll tell you when you walk in is, I'm not your treating physician, I'm not here to give you any medical advice, I'm just here to examine you. But you'll often find that many of the disability insurance companies won't turn over the report to you. So in the end of the day, they'll do this examination and then they leave you in the dark, as to what's going on. Now, we mentioned earlier about the video or bringing in a independent person. Not every state allows you to bring in a video, and not every state allows you to bring in a recording device or something like that. So you have to be aware of your state laws, and we're familiar with the laws in all the different jurisdictions. So you have to have this negotiation back and forth with the insurance company and really push them to get the information that you want. And if you work hard enough at it, and especially if you work with an attorney to help you with this, you can make sure that you have the most protection possible for you when you go to an independent medical exam.